My name is Colleen Salisbury. I'm 28 years old, a single mom, and for the last 3 days I've been living inside a nightmare I created with one stupid choice. My phone rang at 7:30 on a Monday morning. For a second, I just stared at the screen, as if I'd forgotten what phones were for. 70-odd hours without sleep will do that to you. The kitchen felt tilted, like the whole apartment had been knocked off balance. Cold coffee sat untouched in the pot from Friday. Crayon drawings were still taped crookedly to the fridge. Wyoming State Police flashed on the caller ID. My stomach dropped so fast I had to grab the counter. I swiped to answer with a hand that didn't feel like mine. Hello? Ms. Salisbury? This is Officer Garrett with the Wyoming State Police. We've found your daughter. For a moment, there was only buzzing. My ears, the lights, the blood in my veins, everything sounded like static. I dug my fingernails into the granite until my knuckles went white. Is she... The word alive wouldn't come out. It lodged somewhere between my heart and my throat. She's safe, ma'am. Dehydrated, exhausted, but safe. The room seemed to snap back into place. Air slammed into my lungs all at once. My knees nearly gave out. You found Lily? My voice broke on her name. Where is she? I'm coming. I'll leave right now. Ma'am, we actually need you to stay where you are. We're coordinating with NYPD and the FBI. Your daughter will be flown back to New York this afternoon. No, please, just let me talk to her. My hand was shaking so hard the phone rattled against my ear. Put her on the phone, please, right now. There was a rustle, muffled voices, footsteps, a door closing. Then, Mommy! She sounded 7 again. Not the wildly independent, almost 8-year-old who informed me she was basically a teenager, just my baby. 2 syllables and my entire world cracked open. Hey, lily pad, I whispered. I'm here. I'm right here. I want to come home. Her voice wobbled. I could hear her swallow. Please. You are coming home, I said, forcing the words through a throat full of glass. Today. They're putting you on a plane, and I'll be waiting at the airport, I promise. There was a tiny pause. I could picture her brow scrunching, the way it always did when she was trying to make sense of something that didn't make sense. Aunt Marcia said you told her to take me away. Her words came out in a rush, small and scared. She said I needed to learn how to be good. Did I do something bad? The question hit me harder than any punch could have. The countertop didn't actually crack under my grip, but it felt like it should have. No, I choked out. No, baby, you did nothing wrong. Not even a little bit. None of that was true. Aunt Marcia lied. Silence. I imagined her biting her lip until it turned white, something she'd copied from me without realizing it. Can I come home now? She whispered. Yes, I said, because anything else would have killed me. Yes, today. I'll be there when you land, okay? Okay, barely audible. I love you, Mommy. I love you more, I said, and then the line went dead. I stood alone in my kitchen. Sunday morning light. No, Monday, I corrected myself. Time had blurred into one long smear, filtered through the windows. The coffee pot was still full from Friday. Lily's unicorn drawing, all rainbows and glitter glue, stared back at me from the fridge. She'd been gone for 70 hours. No, 67 hours and 43 minutes. I knew because I'd counted every single one. It started on Friday. On Friday at noon, I was still pretending I had a normal life. I sat at my tiny desk in our even tinier home office, tweaking the final slide on the presentation I'd spent 3 weeks perfecting. The Boston conference started that evening. Senior leadership would be there. If I nailed this, the promotion I'd been chasing for 2 years was finally within reach. Lily was on the floor behind me, drawing another unicorn. She loved them, unicorns, dinosaurs, and asking 500 questions an hour. Mommy, why do clouds float? She asked, not looking up from her paper. Air pressure, I said automatically, adjusting a bullet point. But why doesn't all the rain fall out before it's a cloud? I smiled despite myself. It's complicated. I'll explain later, okay? She sighed dramatically. You always say that. I know. I owe you like 10 explanations. We'll do a science day on Sunday. If I'd known what Sunday would look like, I would have thrown my laptop out the window and spent all day building cloud charts with her instead. My phone buzzed. The babysitter. I didn't even need to answer to know what was coming. I could feel the dread before I heard Rachel's voice. Colleen, I am so sorry. My son woke up with a fever. I can't... It's okay, I cut in, staring at the calendar reminder for my 2 p.m. train to Boston. Don't worry about it. Take care of him. This is the 3rd time I've canceled on you. I feel awful. Kids get sick, I said. It's not your fault. I hung up and stared at the presentation on my screen. It suddenly felt ridiculous. Charts, projections, strategy notes, small and meaningless compared to the simple fact that I had no one to watch my daughter. I scrolled through my contacts like I had the week before. Mom and Dad in Florida. My ex-husband Jason in California with his new wife and their baby, posting beach photos while I did bedtime solo. Friends with kids, all busy, all apologetic. I was seconds away from calling my boss and telling him I couldn't go when my phone rang again. Marcia, my older sister. We used to be close before she married Ben, before she had Tyler and Emma, before every conversation between us turned into a lecture about structure and respect and how your daughter talks back too much, Colleen. I almost let it go to voicemail. Almost. Hey, I answered. Hey, Call, you sound like you're about to cry. Her tone was light, amused more than concerned. What's wrong? I exhaled. Babysitter just canceled again. I've got this conference in Boston. It's kind of a big deal, and I trailed off, glancing at Lily, who was now giving her unicorn wings made of tiny hearts. Marcia didn't hesitate. She never did. I'll take Lily for the weekend. I blinked. You? What? I'm taking Tyler and Emma to Hershey Park, she said. It's perfect. She'll love it. Roller coasters, chocolate, a change of scenery. You get your conference. Everybody wins. A voice in the back of my head whispered, Don't do this. You sure? I asked. I know you have your hands full already. Marcia laughed. Please. 3 kids, 2 kids, it's all chaos. Besides, family helps family, right? I wanted to believe that. I needed to believe that. That would be amazing, I said slowly. Thank you. Text me your address again, she replied. We'll swing by around 1:30. After we hung up, I packed Lily's bag like I always did, too early and with too much care. Clothes, toothbrush, her kid phone, emergency contact card with my cell number laminated like I was sending her into battle. Logic told me it was just a weekend away with her cousins. The voice in my chest wasn't convinced. At 1:30 p.m., Marcia's SUV rolled into the driveway, shiny and spotless, like it had driven straight out of an ad about responsible adults. Tyler and Emma sat in the back, faces lit by their phones, not even glancing up. Marcia knocked once and walked in without waiting for me to answer. That was her in a nutshell. You ready? She asked, giving the living room a quick, judgmental sweep with her eyes. Almost. I knelt in front of Lily, who was bouncing on her toes, backpack on, unicorn shirt bright against her jeans. You excited? I asked. Hershey Park, she squealed. Aunt Marcia said there's a roller coaster that goes upside down. I swallowed. Be good, okay? Listen to Aunt Marcia. I'll call you tonight. She threw her arms around my neck and squeezed. I held on a second too long. When I let go, Marcia was already half turned toward the door. Come on, Lils, time to go. Lily skipped out after her, ponytail swishing. She climbed into the back seat, buckled herself in between Tyler and Emma. No one looked up from their screens. I stood in the doorway and watched. Marcia rolled down the driver's side window. Relax, she said with that tight, satisfied smile she always wore. I've got this. Something in her voice made the hairs on the back of my neck stand up. Call me when you get there, I said. We will. She put the SUV in gear. Lily twisted in her seat and pressed her hand to the window. I waved back, my throat unexpectedly tight. She looked so small in that big car. I watched until they turned the corner and disappeared. The voice in my head was still whispering when I grabbed my suitcase and headed for the train station. I really should have listened. The conference in Boston started at 7 p.m. Friday night. I tried to pretend I was present, tried to smile, shake hands, nod at industry executives, but my phone sat like a burning coal in my pocket, too quiet, too still. By 8:30, I stepped out onto the balcony of the hotel ballroom, the cold wind slicing across my face. I called Marcia, straight to voicemail. Hey, just checking in. Let me know when you get there. Tell Lily I love her. I hung up and immediately dialed Lily's kid phone. Voicemail again. I forced myself to breathe. Uncharged battery, I told myself. She forgets all the time. They're probably riding the Ferris wheel already. Inside, people laughed over glasses of wine. Music played. Glasses clinked. All I heard was the pounding of my own pulse. I went back in, tried to focus, tried to look like the kind of woman who deserved a promotion. But the voice in my head, the one I'd ignored all day, grew louder. Something's wrong. By Saturday morning at 8 a.m., there was still nothing. No call, no text, no photo of Lily smiling with chocolate smeared on her cheeks. I tried again. Voicemail. Then again. Voicemail. By 10 a.m., my hands were shaking. By noon, I couldn't sit still. I walked out of the conference, found a quiet corner near the elevators, and dialed Marcia for the 10th time. This time, she answered. Just one word. Hello. Relief slammed into me so hard my knees buckled. Oh my God, Marcia, you scared me to death. Why haven't you called? Is Lily okay? Can I... We've been busy, she said flatly. Kids, you know. Something was off. Her tone, her breathing, the faint hum in the background that didn't sound like a theme park. Let me talk to her, I said. She's busy right now. Busy with what? Put her on the phone. Colleen, she said, annoyed. I said she's busy. My heart dropped into a place beyond fear. Marcia, where are you? She hung up. I stared at my phone as if it had betrayed me. Panic finally screamed loud enough to drown out reason. I opened Find My Phone, praying Lily's kid phone still pinged a tower somewhere. It loaded slowly, too slowly. When the map appeared, my blood went cold. Last location, Friday, 3:47 p.m., I-80 West, Pennsylvania. Not Hershey Park. Not even close. They were headed west. Far west. My vision tunneled, the hotel lobby blurred. People walked around me, unaware that my life was cracking in half. I booked the next flight home. I didn't tell my boss. I didn't send an email. I didn't care about any promotion anymore. I just ran. I landed at JFK Saturday evening, sprinted through the terminal, grabbed a taxi, and told the driver to step on it. The moment the car stopped in front of the NYPD precinct, I flew through the doors. The officer at the desk didn't look up at first. Can I help you? My sister took my daughter, I said, breathless. She told me they were going to Hershey Park, but I tracked my daughter's phone. They were driving west. She won't let me talk to her. It's been over 24 hours. He finally looked at me, sympathetic but skeptical. Ma'am, this sounds like a family misunderstanding. A communication issue, maybe. No, my voice cracked. She drove her 2,000 miles away from home. She lied to me. She won't let Lily speak to me. Did you give her permission to take your daughter on a trip? Yes, but not this. My throat burned. Please help me. He sighed. I'll file a report, but unless there's evidence of... A door opened behind the desk. A woman stepped out. Dark suit, hair in a low bun, eyes sharp enough to cut steel. An FBI badge clipped to her belt. Ms. Salisbury, she said. I'm Detective Sarah Morgan. Come with me. She led me into a small interview room and shut the door. Tell me everything, she said. Not unkindly, but with a clarity that made whatever I'd been holding inside spill out in one breathless flood. The canceled babysitter, the trip to Boston, the call, the silence, the GPS ping, the fear. When I finished, she nodded once. We'll find her. How long? I whispered. Hours? Days? Your sister's phone pinged a tower in Nebraska this morning, she said. We're tracking her credit cards. If she uses one, we'll know. And if she doesn't? Then we wait, she said. But Ms. Salisbury, she leaned forward. People who take children across state lines leave trails. Your sister is not a criminal mastermind. She's an angry sibling making reckless decisions. I nodded, but my hands wouldn't stop shaking. Sunday morning dragged like a blade across my nerves. At noon, Detective Morgan called. Credit card hit, she said. A gas station in western Nebraska, 6 a.m. local time. Was Lily with her? I whispered. A pause. Security footage shows a woman matching your sister's description. No child visible. The bottom dropped out of my world. What does that... My voice broke. What does that mean? It could mean Lily was sleeping in the back seat, Sarah said carefully. Or your sister sent her inside earlier. We're pulling more footage. We're not assuming the worst. But I heard the part she didn't say. Or it means your daughter isn't with her anymore. I couldn't breathe. I couldn't think. I sat in my living room, staring at the unicorn drawing on the fridge, tracing each glittery line with my eyes until it blurred. My phone rang. Marcia. My pulse stopped. I answered before the second ring. Where is she? I screamed. Her voice came back disturbingly calm. Relax, Colleen. Don't you tell me to relax. Where is my daughter? She's learning a lesson, Marcia said, like she was discussing chores. About respect, about consequences. Someone has to teach her. You're too soft. My vision went red. You are not her mother. Well, someone has to step up. She talked back to me at Thanksgiving. You let her get away with everything. She asked a question, I screamed. She's 7. That's how it starts, Marcia said. Disrespect, entitlement. This is for her own good. Bring her home, now. Maybe in a few days, maybe a week. Depends on her attitude. I recorded the entire call. She had no idea. Marcia, I said, shaking so hard I could barely hold the phone. I swear to God. Calm down, She exhaled into the receiver. You'll thank me later. Then she hung up. I stared at my reflection in the black screen. I didn't look like a mother anymore. I looked like a storm. I called Detective Morgan. She picked up instantly. I recorded the call, I said. You need to hear it. I played it. She didn't speak for 5 seconds, which is a very long time when you're holding your breath. Then, Ms. Salisbury, this just became federal kidnapping. She exhaled once, controlled, focused. Your sister will be arrested on site. We've alerted Wyoming, Nebraska, Colorado, and Utah. Don't worry. But I could hear the edge in her voice now. This wasn't discipline. This wasn't miscommunication. This was a crime. A cold one. A deliberate one. At 7:30 Monday morning, my phone rang again. Wyoming State Police. We found your daughter. This time, the world didn't tilt. It shattered. I stood behind the security line at JFK, my hands locked together so tightly they'd gone numb. Travelers spilled out through the sliding doors. Families, business people, students returning home. But none of them were her. Detective Sarah Morgan stood beside me, her face unreadable, her untouched coffee cooling in her hand. You'll see her any second, she said quietly. I didn't answer. My throat felt too tight. Then I saw her. A small figure wrapped in an oversized Wyoming State Police jacket stepped through the doors, holding an officer's hand. Her hair was tangled, her cheeks pale, her eyes scanning the crowd with a kind of desperate hope I had never seen on her face before. And then her gaze found mine. She let go of the officer's hand and ran. I dropped to my knees, arms open, and she collided into me with all the force her 7-year-old body could manage. I held her so tightly I thought she might disappear if I loosened my grip for even a second. "Mommy," she sobbed into my shoulder. Her whole body trembled. "Mommy." "I've got you," I whispered, burying my face in her hair. "You're safe now. I've got you." The taste of relief and heartbreak came as one. The officer approached gently and handed me a manila folder. Her medical report. I nodded without looking at it. Bruises from the seatbelt, dehydration, exhaustion. Nothing I didn't already feel in her shaking limbs. Sarah knelt beside us. "Lily, I'm Detective Sarah. Would it be all right if I asked you a few questions?" Lily looked up at me with wide, fearful eyes. I nodded and brushed her hair back from her forehead. "It's okay, baby, I'm right here. You can talk to her." We were guided to a small private room inside the airport. Lily sat on my lap, fingers gripping my shirt like she thought I might vanish. "Lily," Sarah began softly, "can you tell me what happened on Friday?" Her little hands twisted together. "Aunt Marcia picked me up. She said we were going to Hershey Park, but we didn't." Her voice cracked. "We just drove forever." "Did you ask her where you were going?" "Yes. She said it was a surprise." "What happened at this gas station?" Lily swallowed hard. "Aunt Marcia said she needed the bathroom. She told me to wait in the car. She locked the doors." My entire chest tightened. "How long did you wait?" Sarah asked. "I don't know. Tyler and Emma were asleep. I was hungry. I wanted to go home." She blinked quickly. "Then a truck driver knocked on the window. He asked if I was okay." "And did you tell him?" A tiny nod. I said Mommy didn't want me anymore, because that's what Aunt Marcia said." I closed my eyes for a moment. It felt like someone had reached inside my chest and torn something loose. Sarah turned off the recorder. "You were very brave, Lily." Lily only pressed her face into my shirt. That night, I tucked her into bed with her stuffed pony under her arm and the nightlight glowing softly beside her. She looked impossibly small against her pillows. "Mommy?" she whispered when I turned to leave. "Yes, baby. I'm sorry I was bad." My heart cracked open. I sat on the edge of her bed and took her hand. "You weren't bad," I said. "Not even a little. None of this was your fault." "But Aunt Marcia said—" "She was wrong," I said immediately. "Completely wrong. You didn't do anything wrong." She hesitated, then whispered, "Will you stay until I fall asleep?" "I'll stay all night if you want." "Okay." She drifted off within minutes, exhaustion pulling her under, but I stayed long after her breathing slowed. I couldn't leave her. Not yet. Not after everything. My phone buzzed with a message from Sarah. "Arraignment tomorrow, 9 a.m., Federal Courthouse." I looked at Lily's small hand resting in mine. I would be there. Whatever happened next, I wasn't backing down. The next morning, I sat in the gallery of the federal courtroom. The air was cold, sterile, buzzing with whispers. Sarah sat beside me, calm as stone. Then the door opened, and marshals led Marcia inside. Orange jumpsuit, hands cuffed, hair a mess. She looked smaller than I remembered, until her eyes found mine. Not remorseful, not frightened. Resentful. The public defender rose. Your Honor, my client pleads not guilty to all charges. Judge Winters looked unimpressed. Ms. Castellano transported a 7-year-old child across multiple state lines without permission and abandoned her in Wyoming, and she pleads not guilty? The attorney stammered something about a family misunderstanding. An Amber Alert across 6 states suggested otherwise. Bail is set at $250,000, the judge said. Next hearing in 3 weeks. The gavel struck once. Marcia turned in her seat to look at me again. I didn't look away. She was the one who broke eye contact. Later that afternoon, my phone rang. My mother. I almost didn't answer. Colleen, she said, voice trembling. We heard everything. Is Lily okay? Oh, God, sweetheart. She's home. She's safe. I kept my tone steady. We talked to Marcia, she said. She said she was helping. She said you misunderstood what happened. Maybe you don't have to involve the police. She kidnapped my daughter, I said. She drove her across the country and abandoned her. Silence. Dad's voice came on, shaken. Maybe there's a way to work this out within the family. She stopped being my sister the moment she terrified my child, I said. I'm choosing Lily, not her. They didn't argue after that. They couldn't. I wasn't the same woman I'd been on Friday. Something in me had hardened, sharpened. I wasn't asking for permission anymore. 3 days after the arraignment, Detective Sarah Morgan showed up at my apartment carrying a cardboard box full of files. She placed it on my kitchen table like she was dropping off a body. This is everything, she said. Evidence the prosecution will use. I opened the box with both hands and immediately wished I hadn't. The first thing I saw, security camera stills of Marcia's SUV at gas stations across half the country, time-stamped, labeled, undeniable. Below that, the GPS track of her phone, a red line stretching from New York through Pennsylvania, Ohio, Indiana, Illinois, Iowa, Nebraska, all the way to Wyoming. Not a single stop in Hershey, Pennsylvania. Not one. Sarah slid another stack toward me. Credit card statements, gas, food, nothing for the kids, no hotel, no amusement park. Page after page of receipts for a woman driving relentlessly west. Then she handed me a printed transcript. This is the enhanced audio from your doorbell camera. I pressed play. Marcia's voice came out of the tiny speaker, faint but sharp. Time to teach this kid some respect. My stomach clenched so violently I had to grip the edge of the table. There was more. A recorded witness statement from the truck driver, Mike Rodriguez. His voice steady, almost fatherly. I knocked on the window and the girl started crying. She said her mommy didn't want her anymore. No kid should ever think that. I pressed the heel of my hand to my eyes. Sarah didn't speak. She let the weight settle. After a long moment, she pushed another file toward me, thicker than the rest. This is Lily's medical and psychological evaluation. I opened it. Dehydration, moderate. Nutrient intake, minimal. Contusions from seatbelt restraint. No physical abuse noted. Then the psychological section. Acute stress response. Nightmares. Separation anxiety. Signs of trauma consistent with abandonment by a trusted caregiver. The words blurred. Sarah's voice cut through softly. With this evidence, the case is airtight. I nodded but couldn't speak. Then my phone buzzed. A text from my mother. We want to talk to Marcia. We want to understand her side. 10 minutes later, another text. Can you send us the evidence? All of it. I hesitated, then selected every file, every photo, every recording, and hit send. 2 hours passed before the phone rang. Mom's voice was barely audible. Oh my God, Colleen, oh my God. Dad took the phone next. We didn't know. We thought, it doesn't matter what we thought. We were wrong. I didn't say anything. If you need us to testify, Dad said quietly, we will. I do. We'll be there. For the first time since this nightmare began, something inside me loosened. Just a little. The trial began on a Wednesday morning in late October. The federal courthouse smelled like cold marble and paper. I sat in the gallery behind the prosecution's table, hands clenched, every nerve stretched tight. Marcia entered wearing a cheap gray suit instead of the jumpsuit. Her hair was straightened. Her expression calm, too calm, like she believed she could still talk her way out of this. She didn't look at me. The jury was seated, men and women, young and old, some with children of their own. I watched their eyes as the prosecution laid out the map of Marcia's route on a giant screen. A red line slicing across America. At first, jurors leaned forward. By Nebraska, they looked sick. Then came the audio from my doorbell camera. Marcia's voice echoed through the courtroom speakers. Time to teach this kid some respect. A few jurors flinched. Next was the call I had recorded. Marcia saying Lily needed to learn consequences, that she'd bring her back in a few days, maybe a week. That she lied to Lily about me not wanting her. When the recording ended, the room felt frozen. Then the witnesses took the stand. Mike Rodriguez was first, a broad-shouldered man with tired eyes and the quiet confidence of someone who spent most of his life on highways. "I found the girl alone in the gas station," he said. "She looked lost, crying. She was shaking so hard I could barely understand her." "What did she tell you?" the prosecutor asked. "She said her aunt told her mother didn't want her anymore." The jurors stared at him like they couldn't believe what they were hearing. But they did believe it. Every word felt heavier than the last. Next came Ben, Marcia's husband. He looked worn down, as if the last few months had aged him a decade. "My wife, she was strict, very strict," he said. "Tyler has anxiety. Emma flinches when you raise your voice. I thought she'd never—" He stopped, swallowing hard. "I should have seen it. I should have protected them better." He admitted he hadn't known she'd taken Lily across the country. He'd thought they were camping. He'd only learned the truth when police knocked on their door. Then my parents testified. My father went first. "We believed our daughter," he said, "but the wrong one." He wiped his eyes. "When we saw the evidence, we realized the truth. We support our granddaughter, and we support Colleen." My mother followed. She didn't cry. Her voice was steady, almost too steady. "Lily wakes up with nightmares," she said, "because she thinks someone might take her away again. My daughter is trying to rebuild her life. Lily is trying to feel safe again. Marcia did that damage." Marcia stared at the table the entire time. Finally, it was her turn. She chose to testify. She walked to the stand with the confidence of someone who thought the world should bend to her logic. "I did what I did because I love Lily," she said. "She needed discipline. My sister is too soft. Kids need structure, respect, rules." The prosecutor approached slowly. "You drove her 2,000 miles away without permission." "I was teaching her." "You lied to her and told her her mother didn't want her." Marcia lifted her chin. She needed to understand consequences. "Consequences," he repeated. "For what?" "She talked back at Thanksgiving," Marcia snapped. The jury collectively stilled. "She asked why my children needed permission to leave the table. She was being disrespectful. Someone had to correct her." The prosecutor let the silence hang, suffocating. "So you kidnapped her?" "I was helping." "No," he said quietly. "You were punishing your sister. This was never about Lily, was it?" Marcia opened her mouth, but nothing came out. For the first time, I saw a crack in her certainty, a fracture where her belief in her own righteousness faltered. The prosecutor turned away. No further questions. The courtroom buzzed with whispered disbelief. Marcia was escorted back to her seat. She kept her eyes fixed in front of her, refusing to meet mine. Hours later, the judge dismissed the jury for deliberation. I sat in the hallway outside the courtroom with my parents on one side and Detective Sarah Morgan on the other. Ben sat across from us, hands clasped between his knees. The silence between all of us was heavy, the kind that sits in your lungs and refuses to let you breathe fully. Every so often, I glanced at the clock on the wall. Minutes felt like hours. Hours felt like days. Just when I thought I couldn't endure another second, the bailiff stepped out. "We have a verdict." My heart didn't beat. It dropped. And then it kept dropping as we all stood, all breathing the same thin air, all walking back toward the doors where everything would change again. We filed back into the courtroom. My legs felt hollow, as if they were nothing more than the idea of legs. Marcia sat at the defense table in the same gray suit, though it looked looser now, the shoulders drooping, her hair slightly frizzed, as if she'd been running her hands through it over and over. The jury entered one by one. The foreperson, a father of four, mid-40s, clutched a folded sheet of paper in both hands. "Ladies and gentlemen," Judge Winters said, "have you reached a verdict?" "We have, Your Honor." My heartbeat was a series of sharp, uneven stabs. My mouth tasted like metal. "On the charge of kidnapping across state lines," the judge asked, "how do you find the defendant?" "Guilty." Marcia's shoulders jerked once, the smallest crack in an otherwise rigid posture. "On the charge of custodial interference?" "Guilty." "On the charge of child endangerment?" "Guilty." A faint sound escaped her, something between a gasp and a broken breath. Her lawyer touched her arm, but she flinched away. The judge nodded once. "The defendant will remain in custody until sentencing." The gavel struck. It was over, or at least, the part where we held our breath was over. What came next was the long, painful exhale. 2 weeks later, we returned for sentencing. The courthouse felt colder this time, as if winter had seeped into the marble floors and taken root. When the judge asked if anyone wished to make a victim impact statement, the prosecutor nodded toward me. I stood slowly, every step to the podium measured, deliberate, a mother who had learned the hard way that words could be weapons and lifelines. I unfolded the paper I'd written the night before, though my voice trembled on the first sentence. Your Honor, 3 months ago, my daughter was a happy, curious 7-year-old. She loved unicorns. She asked 100 questions a day. She trusted everyone. I paused, forcing the next breath into my lungs. When she came home, she was still 7, but she woke up screaming. She couldn't sleep without the door open. She asked if I was going to send her away again. My voice cracked, but I kept going. She believed her aunt when she said I didn't want her. Do you know what that does to a child? What it does to a mother? I didn't look at Marcia. I couldn't. Lily is in therapy twice a week. I don't know how long it will take for her to feel safe again. Maybe years. My fingers tightened on the paper. Maybe longer. I lowered the page. I'm not asking for revenge. I'm asking for justice. For my daughter. For every child who deserves to sleep without fear. When I returned to my seat, my parents reached for my hands on either side. I let them. Marcia did not. Her hands were folded in her lap, knuckles white. Her lawyer tried to speak. Your Honor, my client wishes to express remorse. The judge cut him off. Counselor, your client showed no remorse during testimony. What she showed was resentment, jealousy, and a disturbing lack of empathy. She turned to Marcia directly. Ms. Castellano, you drove a 7-year-old child 2,000 miles from home. You lied to her, you terrified her, and you abandoned her. Not out of care, but out of control, out of anger, out of a desire to punish your sister. Marcia blinked once, slowly. Her chin quivered almost imperceptibly. Federal guidelines recommend a minimum of 5 years, the judge continued. Given the aggravating factors, crossing multiple state lines, abandonment of a minor in a remote location, documented psychological harm, this court sentences you to 8 years in federal prison without parole, followed by 3 years of supervised release. A faint murmur rippled through the room. The judge wasn't finished. Additionally, the civil judgment is upheld. $850,000 in damages to Ms. Salisbury for therapy costs, emotional distress, and lost wages. Marcia's face drained of color. Her lawyer whispered her name, but she didn't respond. The judge struck her gavel. Court is adjourned. 2 marshals approached. Marcia stood stiffly as they took her by each arm. As they led her toward the side door, she looked back. Not at the judge, not at the jury. At me. For a brief, unbearably human moment. I didn't see a monster. I saw my older sister. The girl whose room I used to sneak into when I had nightmares. The teenager who once defended me at school. The woman who had slowly, quietly turned into someone I didn't recognize. Then the door closed behind her, and whatever part of her I had mourned was gone too. 6 months passed. Lily still had nightmares. Once a week now instead of every night. She still rushed to check if I was home whenever a door closed too loudly. But she laughed more, drew more, ate more, asked questions again. She drew trees now, big ones, with deep roots and branches reaching up like open arms. Her therapist said it was a sign of healing, growth. Ben called once a month to give me updates on Tyler and Emma. They were improving too. Therapy helped. The absence of fear helped more. He'd filed for divorce, full custody. Marcia called him once from prison. He didn't answer. Neither did the kids. 1 year after the sentencing, on a warm spring afternoon, Lily and I planted a small red maple tree in our backyard. She knelt beside me in the dirt, her hands smudged with soil, her eyes bright. What kind of tree is this, Mommy? She asked. A strength tree, I told her. What's that? It's a tree that grows even after storms, I said. Its roots get stronger because of what it's been through. She thought about that, then nodded. Like us? I smiled. Yeah, baby, like us. We lowered the sapling into the hole together, covered the roots with soil, and watered it until the dirt darkened. Will it grow really big? She asked. Someday. Good, she patted the ground. I like that it'll be here forever. Forever, a word she used to fear. Now she said it with hope. 2 years after the sentencing, a letter arrived, forwarded from a law office. Marcia's handwriting on the envelope, smaller than I remembered. I almost threw it away. Instead, I opened it. Colleen, I know you won't forgive me. I don't expect you to. I just need you to know. I was wrong. I thought I was teaching. I wasn't. I thought I was helping. I wasn't. I thought I knew better. I didn't. The truth is, I hurt Lily. I hurt you. And I can't take it back. Ben won't write. The kids won't write. Mom and Dad won't write. I have no one. I earned that. I'm sorry. Marcia. I read it twice, folded it, put it in a drawer. Not forgiven, not forgotten, just placed somewhere it couldn't hurt anymore. Later that afternoon, Lily and I sat beneath the maple tree. It was taller now, leaves full and green, casting a quiet shade over us. Her head leaned against my arm. "Mommy?" she asked softly. "Yes, baby. Do you think Aunt Marcia is okay?" I considered lying, but she deserved truth. "I don't know," I said, "but it's not your job to worry about her." She nodded. "I know." A pause. "I just wondered why she did it." I exhaled slowly. "Me too." She plucked a fallen leaf and turned it between her fingers. "I forgave her," she said at last. It hit me harder than anything I'd heard in court. "You did?" My voice was barely more than a breath. "Yeah, not because she deserves it, but because being angry makes my tummy hurt." 7 years old, so small, and somehow wiser than most adults. "That's very brave of you," I whispered. "Did you forgive her too?" I shook my head. "Not yet. Maybe someday, but not yet." "That's okay," she said, leaning against me again. "You don't have to." We stayed like that, beneath the strength tree, the leaves rustling softly above us. The world felt quieter, safer, still healing, but no longer breaking. We were home, we were together, and for the first time in a long time, that was enough.